Welcome to episode 8 of Mayor's Mixtape. I am Haley Sue Robinson, Director of Public Affairs for the City of Pueblo.
City of Pueblo Mayor Heather Graham.
Chief of Staff Brian McCain.
The man behind the mic. As you know, you can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, YouTube, also on Channel 17. And we want you to like, subscribe. You can also submit your questions or your topics. You can email us at mayor@pueblo.us and find us that way. Mayor, let's jump into a little bit of a recap from last night's City Council meeting. Last night, City Council voted 4-2 on the resolution encouraging voters to vote yes on the ballot issue 2A for the May 6th special election. Did you want to follow up with anything on that?
Yeah, so they're just going to continue down the path of, if deemed feasible, the city will potentially look at taking the off-ramp in August. So I know that there's still a lot of outstanding questions on what does feasible mean, what are the options after, but like we've been saying, that this is a long road, 5, 10, 15 years out until we would even see rate decreases. So I think the City Council is wanting to explore additional options in order to deal with Black Hills Energy.
They're looking more long-term besides just the franchise agreement in August.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay. Also, additionally, this is something we've been talking about quite a bit. City Council approved the funding last night of $464,847.70.
Yay!
For funding for the RFP for the Pueblo shelter.
Yeah.
So then what does this look like to move forward? Because there was a question last night as to why this was potentially less funding than originally put in the RFP, and I think you explained that a little bit last night at Council.
So the funding for the RFP will still be the $584,000. We can't earmark those funds in this year's budget, so we've only earmarked them for the next 8 months.
Got it.
We already had the $200,000 that we were able to use from January through April. Mm-hmm. So that money will be the additional 8 months now for the 12-month cycle.
This fund's just through the rest of the fiscal year.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And so next step is we will today actually review the RFPs that were submitted.
Oh, that quickly. Okay.
Yeah,
so
we're moving
triggered
very quick.
everything.
Yeah, I know government is slow, but we're fast up here in the mayor's office. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that's good news. Hopefully we'll have a update about that soon.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Great. So, Mayor, one thing that you posted last week on your Facebook page was sales tax numbers from January and February. Obviously, we're facing a budget deficit, and so I think what you're trying to show is month by month what it looks like so that folks can maybe anticipate as we move forward. Yeah. January showed it was up 1%. Mm-hmm. February wasn't so good.
Down 11%.
It was down 11%, yes. So you received a lot of questions, a lot of feedback on that post, and we were asked to kind of break down what sales tax is. Can you explain the difference between sales and use tax?
Yeah, so sales tax is the tax that you pay when a good is purchased, and use tax is more of a tax that's paid on equipment rentals, if something is put into use, whether that be, so for example, what I like to use is when I bought one of my restaurants, there was equipment that was existing in the restaurant, and I had to come to the City of Pueblo and pay a 3% use tax on the equipment that I purchased from the previous owner. So you're paying the tax to use the equipment. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that would probably be the same sort of thing in like the construction industry.
Absolutely.
With whatever they're using to build a house.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Can you also explain what is a vendor fee?
So the vendor fee is a 3.3% fee that comes out of the gross net sales tax that is used. It goes to PURA.
Okay.
To pay bonds. Specifically, what the vendor fee is being used for now is the operations for the convention center and for Memorial Hall and any kind of renovation that has taken place. So we take 3.3% over the gross tax and pay those bonds.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Another question we received was who compiles all of this data? So, everything that was posted on your page, where does that come from?
So that comes from our sales tax manager, sales tax division. They put all the information together every month. They send it to the director of finance. He reviews it, and then it comes to me. So a little bit after the 20th, when all of sales tax is due, they spend the next 10 days compiling all the data, making sure it's all accurate. Director of finance signs off on it. Then I get it, and then it usually goes to city council.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's taken by, some people pay check, some people come in and pay cash or on a card, or you can get online and you can pay on our sales tax portal every month. Just depends on how you'd like to pay your return.
Yeah.
And going off of that, a reason why you see sales tax fluctuate as much as it does from like 1% to 11% is because sometimes we have businesses who don't pay on time, don't pay the 20th of every month. And then you'll see maybe a large sales tax increase, a bump or a spike. And so it's really hard to look at the numbers month to month. I like to look at them more over a quarter. So you kind of see a fuller picture. And in our sales tax report, it lists off like if it's retail, if it's a manufacturer, if it's a utility.
All the different categories.
Yeah, so it lists off the categories and whether that category is up or down. The hotels, so maybe we have a hotel that hasn't paid tax in 5 months, so you're going to see a large increase in the lodger's tax. And that happens all the time. That happens with car lots, hotels, restaurants, retailers. Some people just pay it in a lump sum instead of monthly, so you don't see a continuous little up and down. Sometimes you see these big 1% to 11%.
Okay, so that wasn't super surprising, the 1% to 11%, that can happen.
Yeah, and then so we go and we look and see like what's really the big contributing factor. So I could tell you from January to February, automobile sales were way down.
Okay.
I can tell you utilities were down. So maybe one of our utilities didn't make the payment back to the city yet in the time that they ran the sales tax report. So that's down. So it's good to have a couple months at a time when you're looking at a sales tax report to really decide the way that the sales tax is moving. This year we did our budget based off of a flat rate. So we're not saying we're saying at the end of the year, sales tax is going to stay flat, that the ebbs and flows are going to even out, and hopefully we can just maintain a plateau instead of large increases or large decreases.
So, when you talk about some of these folks who maybe don't pay on time, what does that look like for us? Because obviously...
They get a fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
It's not just like,
I think
it's totally fine that you didn't pay sales tax on time.
They get a fine. Okay. And if your business license is up or about to be up and you owe sales tax to City of Pueblo, you're not getting your business license.
Got it. Okay.
Until
there's consequences.
Until you've paid. Yeah, until you filed your tax returns.
Okay. Because that would seem alarming to me if we were just kind of letting that slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we don't let anything slide.
Okay. Got it. Another question you received on your post was in regard to online shopping. How do we fix things where the taxes collected off of online sales go to local government and they're not skimmed by the state?
Yeah, so we addressed that about 4 years ago. It's called our SUTS program. And so now Amazon, Etsy, Temu, all of the big online shoppers, they now file sales tax returns in the City of Pueblo. That was another reason why you saw an increase in the years of 2020, 2021, 22, is because we started to collect these outside entities. I know that, the previous administration would continuously talk about the high number of new businesses licensed. I remember, I think in 22 or 23, there was like 850 new licensed. And I'm like, well, where are these businesses? They're not brick and mortar.
Right.
They're online, but they're remitting sales tax back to the City of Pueblo now. So that's another reason why we've seen sales tax increase over the last few years.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, and so prior to that, we didn't collect any sales tax on Amazon.
No,
on
we would
Etsy.
hope that they would file, but there was no way to track them down, to track down their
Really?
spending. So we have a state program now called SUTS, in which we can log into that portal, and we know how much they owe, and they make those payments to us.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those types of payments will continue as long as people continue to shop online.
Sure. That's is that different than, say, like I order my groceries online, or that because like one of those big box stores
you don't pay tax on groceries.
No, okay, that's true. Yeah. But
unless you get dog food.
Okay, that's where I was going. Yeah. So like if I were to order like a online order.
Yep, they remit back to the City of Pueblo. Okay. As long as your zip code is in a city
limits.
zip code. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
No tax on groceries.
Anything else that you feel like we should explain to folks about sales tax?
About the percentage. So the
Sure.
overall percentage. So
okay.
The gross sales tax percentage that comes into the City of Pueblo is 3.7.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 0.5 that goes to half-cent sales tax.
Okay.
So that generates about $12 million a year. You have 0.2 that goes into the public safety sales tax. So that was a ballot issue.
Yep.
Yeah, that was passed. It's been passed twice now. Mm-hmm. That pays for 24 officers and their body-worn cameras.
Right.
And then you have the 3%, the overall general tax that goes into our general fund.
Right.
And that's those three large lump sums are what makes up the sales tax.
And nothing else.
And nothing else.
Okay. Interesting. And I mean, obviously, we have previously spoken about what it would look like for if we were to have a grocery tax and what that increase would be, or how that breakdown would happen. But there's nothing else that the city does to generate.
That's our only tax revenue sources that come into the city.
Okay. Interesting.
I was speaking at an event on Saturday, and I got the question about, well, what about the street utility fee that we pay, on our bills every month?
Right.
And, for the roads, it used to generate about $2.5 million a year to pay for roads. But in 2021, the city council put a stop to that. So that $3 that was on your water bill every month has been non-existent since 2021. No.
Yeah, in 4 years.
So the only money that the city collects to do any kind of infrastructure, operations, wages is 3.7%. 0.5 to PEDCO, 0.2 to PD, and 0.3 to the general fund. Right.
So I know previously it's been brought back to council to consider to bring back the street utility fee. Is there any appetite there?
No, they turned it down. They didn't like that. I think because of also the low amount of money it generated. So that's really where this conversation started about, well, what would an increase of 1% sales tax look like? What would taxing food look like? That's really where all these proposals came from. So we've heard, two different kind of asks from council, like what does a 1% look like? That would generate about,
overall.
Yep, overall. So you would pay 1% on all goods and services that you brought that are taxable, and that would generate about $24 million into the city every year.
Okay.
The grocery tax, taxing food, would generate about 14 million a year.
And I know, speaking of revenue sources, last night, our director of planning, Scott Hobson, came, and he also talked about like Airbnbs or rentals, short-term rentals. That was another thing that was a potential revenue generator. So it seems like there's been a few pieces of, or a few ideas that have been thrown out as to like how we could potentially generate some revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they said that would generate about $65,000 a year. So it's small, but it's something. It could make a difference over several years.
Okay. I also found it interesting just that Pueblo doesn't already have that lodging tax for those short-term rentals. So
yeah, I know that's something that the planning department has been putting together for a long time.
Yeah, they've been
all
working
the
really hard.
stakeholders involved to try to make sure it's it's a right fit for everybody involved.
Right. Well, you think about it. We have, I think a lot of people think, what are you coming to Pueblo for an Airbnb? But we have Colorado State Fair. We have a lot of folks that come visit the reservoir. Even
traveling nurses.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of opportunity for it. Or, folks come back home. They have like a big family reunion type of thing. Not everybody can stay in your house. Those short-term rentals are really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. That's very exciting. Anything else about sales tax you want to touch on? No. Okay. Thanks for breaking that down. I do want to point out that tomorrow we're going to welcome Denver Air Connection. We'll have the flight tour out at Pueblo Memorial Airport. We talked about it a little bit previously, but this will be the opportunity that folks can actually come tour the jet. They can speak to Denver Air Connection, find out more about our new air provider. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
it'll be really fun
to have a flight now.
Yeah, 12 weekly round trip flights, Pueblo to Denver.
Yeah,
and that starts May 1st.
Yeah,
I know a few people have already started purchasing some tickets. I talked to somebody yesterday. They were really excited that we have the connection to Denver because they fly pretty frequently and are happy that they don't have to go to Springs or Denver to get out of town, which is good. So we'll be there tomorrow. Anything else that we need to cover, Mayor?
Town Hall tonight.
Okay.
Black Hills Town Hall.
Got it.
This one will be at Rawlings at 5:45.
Okay.
So just the same continued effort, just trying to educate people on the ballot language, the issues, and kind of the plan forward. So if somebody hasn't heard us come out and talk, I think pretty much every night of the week I'm somewhere else speaking about Black Hills and the off-ramp and what that could potentially be. So if you don't have all the information yet, it's a great time to come and listen to myself and President Aliff on the city's proposals. Ballots should be coming out if people haven't already got them. I haven't got mine yet, so maybe tomorrow.
The overseas ballots have been out, so we should get ours in the mail, I hope, this week.
Yeah, so election's in about 3 weeks, so we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of town halls, there's also the Public Utilities Commission. They have it's not really a town hall, it's a public comment period for the just transitions on Thursday. That'll be at CSU Pueblo at Hoag Hall. So yeah, busy week.
It's always busy.
Every night of the week you're busy, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, with that, do you have something? Yeah, Chief of Staff McCain has something.
2 things, just an update on the failure to appear and fairness and transparency in municipal court. So Senate Bill 62 and House Bill 1147. The governor is talking about vetoing them. 1147 still has not passed out of the House with the Senate amendments. I'm watching it today. But I would encourage everybody to write the governor's office and ask him to veto both of those bills. Not only does it infringe on the home rule authority that we have as a municipality, but it would take away our ability to hold those accountable that are breaking our laws and what they call low-level crime or gateway crime. And then some good news, all of our officers are home as of Saturday. Yeah. So if you want to say anything about that, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Yeah, we're happy to have all of them back. We had a great procession in downtown where all 3 officers were honored. So the last officer nearly spent a month.
That's been a long time.
In the hospital. I think the shooting was March 18th, so almost right around that month. So we wish them all a speedy recovery and their families, and hope they're on their way to feeling better, and their families too.
And there were a lot of people that showed up to welcome them home and just show their appreciation. It was really great to see so much of the community come together for that. Yeah. So we're really happy. Glad you mentioned that. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Don't forget, subscribe, tune in, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Buzzsprout, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on Channel 17. And email your topics or your questions at mayor@pueblo.us. We'll see you next time.
Have a good week.